Just a few short years ago, it seemed unlikely that Charlie Cox would ever return as Daredevil. Then, after he cameoed alongside Spider-Man and She-Hulk, it seemed unlikely that the Daredevil we know and love from Netflix, the dark, gritty, brutal, somewhat realistic version of Daredevil ripped straight from Frank Miller's comics, would ever make a comeback. But now, finally, more than a decade after Cox made his Daredevil debut, with the near-flawless rollout of Born Again Season 2, the character is finally back on track. The first season of Born Again was a welcome return to a darker Daredevil, and a great showcase for Cox's electric on-screen chemistry with Vincent D'Onofrio. But it was far from a return to form. Season 1 was rough, because it was a Frankenstein's monster stitched together from two different projects. Born Again's original writers envisioned it as a light-hearted legal drama, with very little Daredevil action and a brand new supporting cast around Matt Murdock. But even after the cameras had started rolling, this version of the show just didn't feel right. So midway through production, Marvel pumped the brakes, shut it down, and brought in a new showrunner for a complete creative overhaul. Dario Scardapane was hired to reimagine Daredevil Born Again as more of a direct continuation of the Netflix series, much closer in tone to its predecessor, and with more familiar faces in the supporting cast. But some of the damage was irreversible. I enjoyed Born Again's first season on the whole, but you could really tell it had been reshot and retooled into a very different show than what was originally planned. When you watch season 1 now, you can see plenty of evidence of Matt Coleman and Chris Ord's original take. The White Tiger storyline feels like a case of the week stretched out into a serialized multi-episode arc, and while it did bring back a few recognizable characters from the Netflix show, it also has replacements for most of them. Glenn is the new Karen, McDuffie is the new Foggy, Buck is the new Wesley. Going into season 2 though, Scardapane was the showrunner from the jump. He got to plan this season from the beginning. He didn't have to reshape it from someone else's diametrically opposed vision, and it's the best Daredevil has been in years. After a shaky first season, Daredevil Born Again just delivered a near perfect season 2. The tone was nice and consistent for 8 weeks straight, the story maintained a mostly agreeable pace, and unlike with House of the Dragon, Born Again season 2 actually followed up on the promise of a street war in the season 1 finale.
He's here, Daredevil!
The Anti-Vigilante Task Force proved to be a hauntingly timely parallel to ICE, an unchecked, undisciplined, untrained government agency that was supposedly set up to go after one kind of person, but ended up just being used to go after their dear leader's political enemies. This season gradually raised the stakes and built to a jaw-dropping finale in which Mayor Fisk brazenly massacred his own citizens, and Daredevil and Jessica Jones fought AVTF agents side by side.
It's not fear, it's order.
Even for a show that killed off the title character's best friend in its first couple of minutes, the first season of Born Again played it frustratingly safe. There was a lot of graphic violence, but not enough cold, hard consequences for those actions. The Netflix show was very violent, but it also took big swings to show the devastating cost of that violence. In season 2, Born Again finally started taking some big swings, from the untimely demise of Vanessa Fisk to Matt's game-changing courtroom revelation in the finale, and it mostly pulled them off.
I am Daredevil.
Perhaps the biggest swing of the season was giving Foggy's killer a redemption arc. Born Again's second season went from good to great in its 5th episode, The Grand Design, the one that brought Eldon Henson's long-awaited return as Foggy in flashback form. Following the cliffhanger ending of the previous episode, The Grand Design continued Daredevil's uneasy alliance with Foggy's killer, Bullseye. When Bullseye, or Dex, murdered Foggy in the series' cold open, Matt saw red and threw him off a roof. Dex survived the fall, but Matt was raised a good Catholic boy, so he's still racked with guilt over this attempted murder. Thematically, this episode is all about that guilt.
That night you threw me off the roof, I was supposed to die. 4 stories, no one survives that.
And yet, maybe that's the grand design.
Matt's guilt over his attempted murder of Dex, Foggy's killer, is tangled up in his grief over Foggy's death.
That's just murder.
Vanessa, Foggy.
Matt and Dex's reluctant team-up is contrasted with Matt and Foggy's unbreakable friendship.
Don't say his name.
While Matt and Dex try to evade the AVTF's manhunt in the present, we see Matt and Foggy disagree over how to handle a case early in their careers. These flashbacks are woven beautifully into the main storyline, using Matt's past experiences to contextualize his present-day decision-making, the same dramatic device that Lost used to thrive on. This back and forth culminates in the emotional climax of the episode, where Matt is forced to make a choice. An injured Dex is begging him to just leave him to die and save himself, and Matt almost does that, but his conscience gets the better of him.
I killed your friend, Foggy. I didn't think twice. That's who I am.
Inspired by Foggy's selfless act during that early case, Matt goes back to save Dex. Foggy's selflessness inspires Matt to save Foggy's own killer and give him a second chance, and in a church no less. Matt's Catholic background is a big part of his character in the comics, and it was explored heavily in the Netflix series, especially in its third season, which was actually based on the Born Again storyline. But Disney's revival hasn't touched on it much until now. This episode felt more like a Scorsese movie than a Marvel show. It's more Mean Streets than Miss Marvel.
You don't make up for your sins in the church. You do it in the streets. You do it at home. The rest is bullshit and you know it.
From then on, throughout the back end of the season, Born Again just seemed to get better and better every week. It certainly got bigger and crazier and ballsier every week. Daredevil's brutal fight with the Kingpin in his lair was, to use the parlance of our times, generational. And it all built to a staggering season finale. Almost every MCU project culminates in a big final battle, and Born Again Season 2 is no different. But it's usually just mindless spectacle. Born Again highlights the true horror of violence, and draws parallels between Matt and Jessica's annihilation of the AVTF agents, and Fisk's ruthless massacre of the protesters, with some direct match cuts to hammer it home. The guys Matt and Jessica are beaten to a pulp might deserve it a little more than the guys Fisk is beaten to a pulp, but at the end of the day, they're all just hurt people hurting people.
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
When the protesters finally overwhelm Fisk, Matt steps up to stop the violence, which almost never happens in Marvel's final battles. It usually comes down to who can punch the hardest.
Pleading with the crowd for some kind of sanity.
Uh-oh, and a barrage of pretzels now knocking Whitey unconscious.
Wow, this is a black day for baseball.
Born Again's climactic set piece has more brutality and bloodshed than any other MCU battle, but it also has more remorse and pleas for sanity than any other MCU battle.
It's over. It's over for both of us.
I've seen some people complain that the Kingpin got off easy at the end, and that the Attorney General wouldn't still let him take the same deal after he murdered a bunch of people in broad daylight and bathed in their blood. But Fisk's happy ending isn't as happy as it seems. The final montage juxtaposes the sun-soaked paradise where Fisk is living in exile with the bleak prison where Matt is locked in solitary. But for Fisk, that beach is a kind of prison. He's been kicked out of the city he loves and he's lost all his power, so he feels just as trapped and powerless as Matt does.
I'm an average nobody. Get to live the rest of my life like a schnook.
Fisk avoids jail time, but he ends up in his own kind of prison. The ultimate tragedy of this ending is that Matt and Fisk both end up in the last place they want to be. Now that it's over and done with, and it's stuck the landing with that incredible finale, I can safely say that Born Again Season 2 is the third best Daredevil season. It's earned a spot behind Seasons 1 and 3 of the OG show. In its first season, Born Again saw two completely different shows with opposing tones getting Frankenstein together and reanimated as a horrifying monstrosity, feared and vilified by the local villagers. But Season 2 sits comfortably alongside the very best of the Netflix show. It wasn't a perfect season, it certainly had its fair share of flaws, from the frustrating scarcity of action sequences in the early episodes, to the increasingly soapy and contrived B.B. Blake storyline, but the hits far outweighed the misses. Born Again's jaw-dropping Season 2 finale stuck the landing and solidified it as one of the best Daredevil seasons yet. I would have been happy with one game-changing twist, but this finale had like 3 or 4.
Are you honestly going to tell this court that Daredevil is a blind man?
Matt told the world he's Daredevil in just the first act, and it made up for the lack of action in the earlier episodes with a season's worth of bloodshed in the last 20 minutes. Oh, and I'm in love with that black suit. I always loved it in the comics, and I wasn't sure if they could pull it off in live action, but oh boy did they. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe and click on the little bell. And also seize the day and call your mom and be kind to yourself.